So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Putting it all together. Wow, it's the end of the month already. It's amazing how this month has just flown by. So our theme for this month has been the Divine Nine. And my question is to you, what is the Divine Nine? Anybody remember what they are? Okay, well, we'll review them. We'll go over them. They are the 9 spiritual practices that, when experienced in tandem, support us in living from our God-centered nature with our hearts open and our visions and dreams made manifest. So far, we have covered 6 of the 9. And here's another congregant participation opportunity. What are the 6 that we have explored already? Oh, we've got it. What do we have? We've got Seva, which is sacred service, otherwise known as Seva. We explored that the first Sunday of this month. Yes. And let's see. So tithing was another one. And okay, we'll go through them. So sacred service. Sacred service, the first one, which is Seva. That's Sanskrit for sacred service. And as a final reminder, it is the giving of our time and talent from the overflow of our infinite beingness and from a place of knowing that as we serve all of God's creation, we are reenacting the loving givingness of God and therefore expressing our own divine nature. Sacred giving, otherwise known as tithing, which was our second one, which we also explored the first Sunday of the month, and that is leaving 1/10 of our supply with the source of all of our supply and keeping and using as we see fit the 90%. We did a neat little example up here. We each brought in 10 items, and boy, the 90% pile really grew. And here's this little bit that we're leaving to source. So it was a good visual. It was great. Then we moved on to visioning, which we explored 2 weeks ago. And that's a way to open us up to receive God's highest and best. Behind this practice is the idea that if we do not have a vision for our lives, a vision of where we want to end up, at least in this circle of evolution, right, of our upward spiral, then we will live our lives by default. By default. If we have a vision, God's higher vision, than we might have even for ourselves, our lives will be lived by design. And I love that. I'm living my life by design. That just makes me feel very empowered. The next one was spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. And another way to open us up to receive by accepting that higher vision. Meditation, which Suzanne so graciously offered us last week, was the practice that stills the wandering mind and gives us a direct conscious connection with the divine. And then visualizing, which is a little different from visioning, was also explored last week. And we saw how visualizing supports our other work to bring our vision into manifestation. So both that talk will be on, as well as this talk. Even if we have to do a little editing there, we'll make sure that it works. So you can catch up with all four of the Sundays and what we talked about each week. So today we're going to complete the list and put it all together in a way that will be sure to open your hearts to God's profound love and joy and support. And it will support you in manifesting your dreams. So let's just jump right in. All right? So the first thing we're going to talk about this morning is affirmations. Okay, I love affirmations, right?
That's what this thing was.
I know. See, we didn't even connect on this. I know. It's just amazing because that's what Louise Hay is so good for, is her affirmations. So everybody knows what an affirmation is, right? Mm-hmm. We're all clear on what an affirmation is. They're statements that are positive, what I want, not what I don't want. They're present tense. They're in the now, not in the future. They're I statements. It's really all about me, right? They're I statements. And they're short, so that they can be committed to memory, so we can repeat them over and over and over. One of my favorites in the car is God drives my car and all other cars. God drives my car and all other cars, especially when you get in that hairy traffic. Whoa, okay, God's driving my car and every other car out there. So they are repeated often to regroove the brain into new habitudes. Habits of attitude, which is a term that was coined by Harry Morgan Moses, and he is a religious science minister that did a great workshop that I went to at Asilomar. So I'm still pulling from the years that I went there. I went there for 14 years, and I collected a lot of information. So he's pretty awesome. So I want to know what some of your affirmations are. What are some of your affirmations that you say every day?
I am grateful for everything. I have no regrets whatsoever.
No complaints whatsoever.
I have no regrets.
Oh, you have no regrets. Okay. All right.
I am a loving child in an abundant universe.
A loving child. Okay.
I am happy, healthy, and whole.
Ooh.
I sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm to do what ought to be done by me.
Ooh.
I sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm.
I also say there is one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, and that life is my life right now.
And I also I am a mighty moving power of God.
Or just as easy as it's always working out for me.
Yep. Or how does it get any better than this?
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Many times a day.
Notice that these are all words of truth. These are all words of truth. Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics said, these words do not become true because you affirm them. This is a common confusion about the practice of affirmative prayer, that if you speak the words of truth over and over, you impress them on the subconscious mind, and thus they become true for you. They do not become true for you because you affirm them. You affirm them because they are true. You are synchronizing your consciousness with the reality of truth, creating a channel through which the mystical flow may do its powerful work through you. As Dr. J. Scott Neal said, he's over in Fremont, your dreams are waiting for you to come true. Right? These things are already true. So I really love that idea. So I'm going to read that part of the quote again. They do not become true for you because you affirm them. You affirm them because they are true. You are synchronizing your consciousness with the reality of truth, creating a channel through which the mystical flow may do its powerful work through you. You don't have to do it. You're just getting in alignment. Why can't we just say them one time and just be done with it? Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, move on to the next thing. Okay, I think Jesus really mastered that part, but we're not quite at that vibrational level. So Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was scientific Christian mental practice, wrote in that. She said, suppose the rain and dust have beaten against a plate glass window until they are very dirty, right? Do not think the mere cessation of the rain and dust will make the window panes clean. So it is with the mind that is covered with years of habitual imaginations, false beliefs, race thinking, wrong thinking. It ceases from imaginations, but practical daily washings of the dust of years must be made. So we're kind of remembering and undoing maybe something that had been set in motion before. Use affirmations to support your prayer when your prayer work when a worry, concern, or false belief wants to creep in. They are perfect for stemming the tide of unproductive thinking. Do you have your go-to affirmation? We all shared those, right? So, but if you don't have one, if you didn't speak up and say, well, this is what I always have, I want you to think of one that you might use now. Let's create them, okay? What would be a powerful affirmation that you would like to use in your life every day? Something positive, something in the present tense. Use an I statement, and I am statements are really the most powerful. I am, and short, so we can remember them. And we're going to do something really wild because this is going to be fun. Are you guys up for it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So has everyone thought of an affirmation in their mind? Everybody got an affirmation? Mm-hmm. Okay. On the countdown from 3, I want everyone with power and authority in your voice to say your affirmation as loud as you can. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. I am a mighty moving power of God. All right, let's do it again. 3, 2, 1. I am a mighty moving power of God. Okay, now I want you to squeeze your thumb and forefinger together and hold it as you anchor in the affirmation, and I want you to say it one more time, and I want you to say it with feeling. 3, 2, 1. I am a mighty moving power of God. All right. Make it a habitude. Make it a habitude in your life. So if we just regularly engage in the 7 practices that we've looked at this month into our lives, if those 7 became who we are and just what we do, we would live in harmony with universal love, with infinite good, and with divine blessing. There's no doubt about it. And if we really want to take it up a notch and come to the ocean of God's goodness, not just with a bucket, no matter how large our bucket might be, but hook a big round hose directly up to it instead, I suggest that there are two more that you will regularly want to engage in. And the last two, the first of the last two, is forgiveness. Forgiveness. One of the greatest statements I've ever read about the power of forgiveness comes from the essay The Lord's Prayer in Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmett Fox. He writes, "If your prayers are not being answered, search your consciousness and see if there is not someone whom you have yet to forgive. Do you think that you can afford this? Of course, no one can afford such a thing. And so the way is clear. You must cut all such ties by a clear and spiritual act of forgiveness. You must loose him and let him go. By forgiveness, you set yourself free." And intellectually, we probably all would agree with this, wouldn't we? You know, in our minds, this kind of makes sense. It sure sounds amazing. It rings completely true. But then there are the words of C.S. Lewis, who says, everyone says that forgiveness is a lovely idea until he actually has something to forgive. Well, maybe them, but yeah, I get that. You may say, I've tried to forgive, but I can't. That's not the truth. You may think you cannot forgive because you have learned not to forgive, because you have spent a long time practicing not forgiving. It's become a habitu, right? And because, in fact, you've mastered the art of not forgiving. But there was a time when, as children, that forgiveness was just our instinct. Think about that. Before we got caught in the mental disease of unforgiveness, it was effortless and it was natural to forgive. We used to forgive others right away. If you see two children playing on the playground together and they start to fight and they start to hit each other and then they start to cry and they both run to their mommies, right? And the mothers go to talk to each other and pretty soon the two mothers are in at it, right? They're having a big old fight. And the two children, well, they're back to playing together. They've forgotten about that. And the moms are like, well, your child did that. No, yeah, and they're already in it. And now the two mothers are angry and they will harbor resentment and hurt for who knows how long. But the children, well, it's past. They've moved on. Yes, we are born with the innate capacity to love, but we have learned, capital letters, learned the opposite behavior, and we have practiced it so much that now returning to love through forgiveness seems difficult, if not impossible. But it is not impossible, and it is essential if we are to build the life we want to live in the world that we want to live in. Holmes, in the book Discover a Richer Life, writes, spiritual mind healing will not be complete until the individual is attuned to the infinite. It will not be complete until we get a clearance from the sense of rejection and guilt. Therefore, we have to forgive others. We have to forgive ourselves and others. So I want to offer you a 3-part Buddhist meditation on forgiveness this morning. It's not quite new thought because it isn't completely in the affirmative, present tense, but it is so beautiful and sacred that I don't want to change it from its original form. So if you'd like to join me, get comfortable. You may close your eyes if you like. For any way that I have caused harm to myself through judgment, action, self-blame, indifference, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive myself. May I allow myself to be a student of life and to make mistakes, just as the river moves with ease around rocks and stones. May forgiveness naturally flow around my difficulties to rest in my heart. May I forgive myself, and if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive myself in the future. For any way that I have caused harm to you, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, I ask for your forgiveness. May you accept me with my imperfections and my mistakes. May you allow me to learn from my actions. May your forgiveness naturally flow around our difficulties to rest in our hearts. May you forgive me. And if you cannot do so in this moment, may you be able to forgive me in the future. For any way that you have caused harm to me, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive you. May I allow you, too, to be a student of life and to make mistakes. May I recognize your humanity in the midst of my pain. May my forgiveness soften any difficulties between us. May I forgive you, and if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive you in the future. Now that you have heard the 3 meditations, let me say them again, and this time I want you to really, really take them in, okay? If you have areas of forgiveness around yourself or others, insert those situations into these meditations. Let's do this one more time. For any way that I have caused harm to myself through judgment, action, self-blame, indifference, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive myself. May I allow myself to be a student of life and to make mistakes. Just as the river moves with ease around rocks and stones, may forgiveness naturally flow around my difficulties to rest in my heart. May I forgive myself, and if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive myself in the future. For any way that I have caused harm to you, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, I ask for your forgiveness. May you accept me with my imperfections and my mistakes. May you allow me to learn from my actions. May your forgiveness naturally flow around our difficulties to rest in our hearts. May you forgive me. And if you cannot do so in this moment, may you be able to forgive me in the future. For any way that you have caused harm to me, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive you. May I allow you, too, to be a student of life and to make mistakes. May I recognize, may my forgiveness soften any difficulty. May my forgiveness soften any difficulties between us. May I forgive you, and if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive you in the future. Forgiveness does not change your past, but it absolutely enlarges your future. And the final Divine 9 practice is, well, you'll figure it out from this reading. It's a personal passage, not mine, but from someone you may be familiar with. One day many years ago, I was sitting in my bathroom and the door closed, booing and hooing on the phone so uncontrollably that I was incoherent. Stop it. Stop it right now and say thank you, my friend Maya chided. But you don't understand, I sobbed. I do understand, she told me. I want to hear you say it now, out loud. Thank you. Tentatively, I repeated it. Thank you. But what am I saying thank you for? You're saying thank you, Maya said, because your faith is so strong that you don't doubt that whatever the problem, you'll get through it. You're saying thank you because you know that even in the eye of the storm, God has put a rainbow in the clouds. You're saying thank you because you know there's no problem created that can compare to the Creator of all things. So say thank you. So I did, and I still do. I keep a gratitude journal and daily list, at least 5 things I am grateful for. My list includes small pleasures, the feel of Kentucky bluegrass under my feet, like damp silk. Walks in the wood with all 9 of my dogs and my Cocker Spaniel. I'm sorry. When I think of Cocker Spaniels, I say it like they did in Lady in the Tramp, Cocker Spaniels. Yeah, so yeah, I always think of it that way. My Cocker Spaniel, Sophie, trying to keep up, reading a good book, and knowing another awaits. Isn't that a pure joy? My thank you list also includes things too important to take for granted. An okay mammogram, friends who love me 25 years on the same great job, staying centered, having financial security. I won't kid you, having money for all the things I want is a blessing. But as I look back over my journals, 99% of what brought me real joy had nothing to do with money. It did have a lot to do with food, though. So, do we know who this author is?
Oprah.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, Maya Angelou.
And Maya Angelou. She in her conversation with Maya Angelou. It's not easy to be grateful all the time, but it's when you feel least thankful you are most in need of what gratitude can give you in perspective. When you learn to say thank you, you see the world anew. As Meister Eckhart so eloquently stated, if the only prayer you ever say in your whole life is thank you, God, that would suffice. So yes, this was Oprah Winfrey. Ernest Holmes writes, when we speak the words of thanksgiving to the God within, knowing before they ask, I will answer, there is something in this attitude of thanksgiving that carries us beyond the field of doubt into one of perfect faith and acceptance, receptivity, realization. Appreciation, gratitude, and thanksgiving, the motive power which attracts and magnifies the hidden potentialities of life. So let's do an affirmative prayer right now. As I engage in sacred service or seva, I reenact the loving givingness of God and express my own divine nature. When I leave 1/10 with the source of my supply, my 90% expands in beautiful, miraculous, and glorious ways from expected and unexpected channels. I open myself to receive through visioning and catch a glimpse of God's highest and best for me. Through my prayers, I empower God's vision for my life. As I visualize, I see God's vision for my life in action. Through meditation, I am calm, I am strong, and I am centered. I know I am one with the divine. By living the affirmative life, I synchronize my consciousness with the reality of truth and create a channel through which the mystical flow may do its powerful work through me. All that has offended me, I forgive. Things past, things present, things future. I fully and freely forgive. With deep gratitude, I call life good. Oh, so very, very good. And so we anchor these Divine Nine spiritual practices by saying together, and so it is.